Righto, I'm answering some questions whenever you're ready.
We're good to go.
Feels good to hold. I'm answering some questions about the backyard adventure. Embossed, you can feel it, it's like Braille. The book is about me, in a sense, returning home after many years of travel to... I'm sort of still in search of those formative experiences in my life, but I don't want to have to jump on a plane and go a long way away to find myself or to find this sense of adventure. I want to be able to do it around my home turf. I have Helen and May now, and a life where I don't tend to want to spend lots and lots of time away. That's a privilege to say that, because I spent 10 years basically somewhere else. Solid 10 years in some other country or another state or up a river somewhere. And because of that, because I've sort of strung myself out across the world, I'm happy to be now home. So for me to preach that this is, you know, a revolution in how you can find or perceive your sense of adventure, I know that it's a failed one, because I've had this big away experience before I'm now doing the local stuff. It's about me making things, it's about doing things in my 100k radius of where I live. Paddling to work, walking to work, sleeping in a gum tree. Ran around the block a whole bunch of times, so they're all really close to home stories, which I think they were just ace to do. It was really fun, and it was just as much fun to write about them, actually. The book itself has taken about 18 months to write, on and off. I'm an early bird writer, like a surfer or a baker. I'm very much an early bird in terms of my creativity and my stillness. I find that when the sun comes up, I just want to be outside digging holes or running around the block or doing. I feel like, my energies rise throughout the day. But creatively, I'm happy to sit and drink my tea in the morning and write. So Mitch has asked the question, how did the book come to be? How did I get a book deal with Beau Books and these great people say, Beau, write a book and we'll publish it for you? I'd walk to work. So I walked 90 kilometres to work for a lecture, actually. It was the second time I'd walked to work, and the second time I walked, we had a photographer come along, Rodney Decker, great bloke. Took all these beautiful photos of me walking along the highway to work. Those photos went into a big major newspaper. It was published the same week that Malcolm Turnbull, our past Prime Minister, was actually booted out of office. And it went nuts. It was the most read article nationally that day. Man walks 90 kilometres to work. Which says a few things. It says, one, people really want quirky, different stories to read in their regular lives. And so when something sticks out a little bit, like a bloke walking that far to work, it's going to stick out. And so lots of people read it, including publishers. So I got a few emails the following day, or I got stacks of emails, 2 of which were from publishers, and I talked to them both and met with them and decided to go with Beau Books, and the rest is history. The Backyard Adventure, the title of the book, didn't come along for probably another 6 or 8 months, but the idea was sort of nursed and massaged out, and here we are. Coming up with the title of a book is fun and intimidating and hard. I remember Paul McCartney talking about one of the songs he wrote, and he wrote it on the train home, where he had it as a dream or something, and it just all came to him, and it was the easiest thing he's ever written. The title of this book was not that way. I'm not sure if I'm the backyard adventurer, as in the best adventurer in the backyard in the world. Anyway, I'm really happy with the Backyard Adventurer now. I think it says a lot. It tells you kind of what's going to happen. And then the strapline, meaningful and pointless expeditions, self-experiments and the value of other people's junk. That really does summarise how I think that I can value add these, small trips, adventures, quirky ideas that I have, all sort of starting and finishing from home. The order of a book, in some sense the hierarchy, because the first 50 pages of this book have to be good. And in a sense, probably the best 50 pages. Otherwise, the rest of the book just gets left alone. Same with a film. You don't get people in the first minute, they're going to click to the next thing. And so it's really important to set the structure up pretty early. And I hope I've got it right. By telling stories before I get into kind of the bit more philosophical waxing on business. Did you know you were going to write a book before undertaking any of the adventures? And if so, did it change your experience while doing it, putting words and descriptions to the moment? I'm getting better nowadays at doing it all. It doesn't matter if I'm writing or filmmaking. I'm just having an experience. It's all just one big bucket of life. I don't think that one thing stains another. And, you know, what's pure? You know, is there a pure adventure because you don't tell anyone about it? Yeah, it's just all great. And I think a book, like films and like telling a good yarn around a campfire, it just all passes, it's just communicating. I'm not sure I answered that question, Mitch. I do a bit of that. I'm going to get a fair bit sidetracked in the next 15 minutes, I reckon. So Mitch has broken that question down beautifully. No, I did not do any of the stunts or stories in the book to write about them. They were merely trips I probably did them more to film them, and then the book has become secondary. I think that will be the case. It's a bit like people putting off the things they want to do in retirement. I think I can always write about my experiences, but I can't always film them or do them. So I'm going to film them and do them and then write about them in the aftermath. Put yourself in your 17-year-old self. Did you ever imagine you'd become the storyteller you are? I wonder why she picked 17. That's a question from my sister. I had my 17th birthday in a plane, actually. I was coming back from Israel. I did a study tour, and it really was my sort of, holy moly, the world is massive and there is so much to see. So it was kind of that's a big sliding door moment as a 17-year-old. I did not imagine I would be a writer at 17, but then I don't know what I wanted to be. I'm not even sure what I am now. I say in the dedication in the front of the book that I struggle to call myself an adventurer. I think it's a convoluted term, and yet I associate with it, the word and it as an identity. You can change every line 20 times over. And so you're always searching for the best kind of combination of words. There's 80,000 words in there, and it's all about that combination. I probably have a vocab of around 5,000 words, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 words, and so it's using those words to the best of your ability. And I think the more writing you do, the more you realise that you're not always a great writer. Hell, I'm not probably even a great writer, period. But I still work at it, and I'm willing to draft pieces of work. I often have great ideas, but they don't quite come out right when you put them in that first chunk. I'm not being very fun, Mitch. I'm being a bit serious about this. Do you find writing cathartic, creative, cumbersome, or a little of all three? Yeah, it's all those things. Ding. That's Helen. This could be fun. My wife is quirky and weird, so these could be... Why do you talk about leaking all the time? That's a good one. And I actually recognised that when I read a few chapters yesterday. I was looking for a few typos. Because there are a few typos in this, folks, and I'm sorry about that for the first printing, but it means you've got something quite special. A few typos floating around. I never realised I talk about leaking all the time, but I can give you a more practical answer in that it does tend to map my days, particularly when I'm really busy. When I'm on expedition, or I've got a mission, or I'm on a mission, if I'm trying to get somewhere, or I'm under the pump, or things are hard, the only reason I'll stop is to leak. And so I tend to talk about it because it sort of abbreviates my expeditions. It's kind of like the punctuation of an experience is when I leak. So sorry about that. I'll note that in my second book. I won't write about leaking so much. You dedicated the book to May and Helen. This is from my wife writing, as in the third person. You dedicated the book to May and Helen, which makes me feel very special. So she's writing then in the first person. But does this order mean you love May more than me? That's a hard question because the only reason May is around is because of Helen. So, I don't know, love. Do I really have to answer this in a public forum? Yeah, I probably love my daughter more than Helen. But that's because she's forcing me to say which one, and that's what I'm going to say. What are your hopes about what impact this book will have for others? Or are you more like a musician who finds therapy through the creation of music? With my films, look, I now have a key ally with my films in Mitch, right? So I have My films are the vision of two people now. I'm the front man and I drive the stories, but it's still a vision of a couple of people. The book is a bit different. It's more Beau's vision because it's my words strung together over a longer period of time. I want it to be a page turner. I have a real desire for people to want to know what happens next and to enjoy that process of anticipation. I think that is the artfulness of storytelling, is if you've constantly got someone hanging on what is going to happen next, even to the point of wanting to come back each evening or on the train in the morning or wherever they read it, to have that really sense of, oh, this is good. I'm about to open up this book and delve into a world that I'm interested in. You know, Kelly, Mitch's partner, made me a cup of tea an hour ago, and I sat there for 2 minutes while the jug boiled with a sense of anticipation. And in many respects, a book is a big version of that. The jug is boiling. Tea is coming. What is your favourite sentence or passage in the book? And I just read her next question. Do you have a big head now? That's why I married her. She's very funny. A favourite passage in the book? There are 3 lines missing on page 98. It's probably my favourite bit because it's not in the book. It's quite a nice ending, actually. I remember reworking those few sentences. I'm going to send that out to people. You'll see it. It's a clanger. The words are actually under the photo, but of course the photo is there. I think it's page 98 or 99. You'll know it. It's the end of a chapter. There are 3 lines missing, and in the second print they will be there. There's a funny line early on about wanting to take a spare penis on an expedition. That's kind of a funny idea because I genuinely thought it, and I can genuinely remember me out at sea in Africa 15 years ago, bobbing around the ocean thinking, why didn't I bring another penis? It's a pretty funny thing to think. So I'm glad that line got in. So that's my Q&A of my book, The Backyard Adventurer. A whole bunch of chapters on walking to work, paddling to work, running an old train line, making things out of junk, eating beans for 40 days. It's pretty quirky. I think it's threaded together as a sort of a story from boyhood Beau right through to where I sit now. So it's fairly chronological and where I got to, or how I got to this place of wanting to write a book about these experiences. It's as authentic as I could come up with. There is another book on the way based on a film series that I'm making with the bloke behind the camera. So life's really good. I'm really proud of this book. I hope you enjoy it, and that's the Q&A.